As I stood on the deserted street corner, my anticipation mingled with a creeping sense of unease. I had arranged to meet someone from Facebook Marketplace to purchase a vintage camera, but there was something off about the whole situation. The seller's profile seemed too mysterious, too shadowy for a simple transaction. When she finally emerged from the darkness, a woman in a long coat with a subtle smile, I couldn't help but feel a shiver run down my spine. Nevertheless, I followed her lead, trailing behind her into the dimly lit alley. As we descended into the basement, the air grew heavy with an ominous tension. My eyes darted around the shelves lined with various items, each one seeming to whisper secrets of its own. But it was the vintage camera in the small room at the back that drew me in. The woman's warning about the camera's history, its supposed ability to reveal people's deepest fears, only fueled my curiosity. Despite the warning, I couldn't resist the pull of the camera's power. With trembling hands, I raised it to my eye and peered through the viewfinder. In an instant, my world turned upside down. I was consumed by a wave of terror as I saw my own darkest fears reflected back at me. It was as if the camera had unlocked a hidden chamber of my mind, unleashing all the doubts and anxieties I had buried deep within. Desperate to break free from its grip, I tore the camera away from my eye and stumbled backward, gasping for air. The woman's pitying gaze followed me as I fled from the basement, leaving behind the mysteries of the marketplace and the haunting echo of what I had seen through the lens of fear. As I emerged back into the light of the street, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stumbled into something far more sinister than a simple transaction. And as I walked away, the weight of my newfound knowledge pressed heavy on my mind, leaving me to wonder what other secrets lurked within the shadows of the marketplace. As I waited nervously on the quiet street corner, my eyes kept darting to the messages on my phone. I was meeting someone from Facebook Marketplace to buy a vintage typewriter, but the seller's profile had given me an uneasy feeling from the start. When she finally arrived, a young woman with a friendly smile, I tried to push aside my apprehension and focus on the transaction at hand. She led me down a narrow alley, and I couldn't help but notice the way her footsteps echoed against the walls. As we entered a dimly lit basement, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Shelves lined the walls, cluttered with various items, but it was the vintage typewriter sitting in the center of the room that caught my eye. I approached it cautiously, eager to inspect the item but wary of the seller's strange demeanor. When I asked about the typewriter's history, her response sent a chill down my spine. She leaned in close, her voice barely above a whisper, and told me that the typewriter had once belonged to a writer who had mysteriously disappeared. They said that anyone who used it would be haunted by the ghost of the writer's unfinished work. Despite her warning, I couldn't resist the allure of the vintage typewriter. I convinced myself that it was just an old story, nothing more than superstition. But as soon as I began typing on the dusty keys, I felt a strange presence in the room, as if someone were watching over my shoulder. Words spilled onto the page, seemingly of their own accord, tales of darkness and despair that I couldn't control. Terrified, I tried to stop typing, but the typewriter seemed to have a mind of its own. It was as if the ghost of the writer had taken possession of me, using my hands as a vessel to tell its story. In a panic, I pushed the typewriter away and fled from the basement, leaving the seller behind with her dark secret. As I emerged back into the daylight, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had narrowly escaped a fate far worse than I could have imagined. From that day on, I vowed to trust my instincts and never again let the allure of a vintage find cloud my judgment. For in the world of Facebook Marketplace, you never know what secrets lie hidden beneath the surface. As I stood on the deserted street corner, waiting to meet someone from Facebook Marketplace, a sense of anticipation mingled with apprehension. I was there to purchase an antique mirror, but something about the seller's profile had given me pause. When she finally arrived, a middle-aged woman with a warm smile, I tried to push aside my unease and focus on the transaction. She led me into a nearby building and up a creaky staircase, the sound of our footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. As we entered a dimly lit room at the end of the hall, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking into a trap. The antique mirror stood against the far wall, its ornate frame reflecting the flickering light of a single candle. I approached the mirror cautiously, admiring its craftsmanship but unable to shake the feeling that there was something off about it. When I asked about its history, the seller's smile faltered, and she hesitated before answering. She told me that the mirror was said to have belonged to a woman who had made a deal with the devil to regain her youth and beauty. But in exchange, she was cursed to see the reflection of her deepest regrets every time she looked into it. Despite her ominous warning, I was drawn to the mirror's mysterious allure. I convinced myself that it was just a story, nothing more than a myth passed down through the ages. But as soon as I gazed into the mirror's surface, I felt a chill run down my spine. My reflection seemed to shift and warp, revealing scenes from my past that I had long tried to forget. Images flashed before my eyes, moments of heartache and loss that I had buried deep within my subconscious. I watched helplessly as the mirror showed me the consequences of my actions, the people I had hurt and the opportunities I had squandered. Terrified, I tried to look away, but the mirror held me captive, forcing me to confront the mistakes of my past. In that moment, I realized that the true curse of the mirror was not in its ability to show me my regrets, but in its power to make me relive them. With a sense of dread weighing heavy on my heart, I tore myself away from the mirror and fled from the room, leaving the seller behind with her dark secret. As I emerged back into the light of the street, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had narrowly escaped a fate far worse than I could have imagined. From that day on, I vowed to live my life without regrets, to cherish each moment and learn from my mistakes. For in the world of Facebook Marketplace, you never know what secrets lie hidden beneath the surface, waiting to ensnare the unwary.